Hey now, and welcome to Quantum Drive. I'm Rob.
I'm Katie.
And our ongoing mission is to discuss every episode of the Orville. Except sometimes we go off on side missions where we talk to cast and crew of the show itself. In this particular episode, we're going to be speaking to Brooke Noska, who is the visual effects producer on the show. We talked to her extensively about Identity Parts 1 and 2 and all the work that went into it.
I really enjoyed chatting with her, and we got to meet her dog, Bruce Wayne Jr. He made a cameo. You guys can't see him, but he made a cameo appearance on the video feed as we interviewed her, and that made my day.
Also, just so people are aware, there are spoilers coming up for future episodes. So if you have not seen through season 2 of the Orville, then you might want to save this episode for later. Wait until you catch up on all the episodes, and then come back and check out this interview so you don't get anything spoiled ahead of time. But aside from that, please enjoy this interview with visual effects producer Brooke Noska. So we wanted to talk primarily about Identity Parts 1 and 2 because when it comes to visual effects, I mean, that's the big one right there. But one of the questions I had was that even though like people think about visual effects as being part of the post-production process primarily, but there's got to be a lot of stuff that comes beforehand, right? Just to make sure things run smoothly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're in pre-production, production, post-production, scoring, coloring. Like we're a part of the entire thing, which is so cool about the visual effects of this show in particular is that we get to see it from page to screen, and like even the different edits that it goes through within production meetings, within table reads, even just on the day shooting it. Like it's always a changing beast just because something works or something doesn't. But for us, for that particular battle, Orville had never done a battle before, so we kind of just were like, well, these are the main points that we think are being depicted in the script, and we started doing some previs, and then all of a sudden it was millions of laser blasts and just total carnage, and we were like, yeah, this looks totally cool. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, and we just wanted to make sure that we had reference available for, you know, when they were shooting to know, hey, if we're going to turn left, like we're turning left, if we're turning right, if we're going to have something, you know, run into us, everybody's kind of reacting. So we had, you know, very elementary elements that we had available that just kind of were the basis of what we were able to build into in post-production, and working with the cut and working with Tom and making sure that those beats were all hit and that it looked extremely badass.
Yeah. So because you have to work with the existing stuff too, and you have a presence on set and everything, is it more difficult to work on a scene where you are really in control of the entire environment, you're generating the entire thing, or is it trickier to deal with the live action element that you have to incorporate the visual effects into?
I mean, they're different. They're different strengths and different weaknesses. You know, if we are creating an entire world, obviously it's way easier for production to be like, and whatever visual effects does, and then we can kind of back into it. Yeah. Other times it's like, all right, we built all this, and then like, whatever visual effects can do in this little tiny space, and we're like, all right, so or it'll be like, hey, we built this really big thing, and you guys have to extend it, or, you know, put it into a world or whatever. So, I mean, it really just is the name of the beast for us because we are in space. So obviously we're not shooting in space. So no. Everything is, I know, no, don't tell Elon Musk. So yeah, I mean, everything is a visual effects. It just kind of depends on the different moves of the camera, or, you know, if we want to go to a very gaseous place, or, you know, something where there's a lot of interactive, like in the first episode of last season when we saw that planet, you know, breaking apart, like that's a lot of time consuming elements and renders and effects sims. Whereas if we're just hanging out above a rock planet, you know, that's not as interactive as where we need, you know, lighting or, you know, that kind of stuff. So it really just depends on what we're doing.
Do you have to blend a lot of practical effects with the visual effects for the Orville?
We love practical effects because it's real and we love real stuff.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hit or miss sometimes because it won't be as extreme and grandiose as what we end up making it. So it'll be kind of more of a hybrid of this is where we started and this is us building onto it. But our artists also will take time sometimes to shoot their own elements. So if there's sparks or something, so it falls, you know, with how natural gravity falls, or, you know, we're really like enhancing those specific elements, but they weren't shot on set. it was just shot against a blue screen or a green screen, so they can comp them in or X, Y, and Z. So yeah, we do a lot of stuff on our own, but we also like to enhance things.
Yeah. How much do you modify concept art? Because we've talked to Lex before, and you gave us a little bit of an idea about that before when we talked to you briefly. But I imagine when you get concept art, there are things that you need to change, whether it be for budget reasons or just for practicality reasons. How big are those changes usually?
The good thing working on this show is the buck starts and stops with Seth MacFarlane's vision. So if he wants to see something, it pretty much rides true to the end. The only changes that really happen are taking it from like a conceptual, paint strokes drawing and making it into that physical world that our actors are breathing, touching, feeling. There are some times where we'll present something and it'll be even more elaborate than what Lex and his department have provided. But that's really just because we have the ability to take live footage and kind of augment it into the world and just kind of bring all the little pieces together. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, there hasn't been any like drastic changes of he makes a desert mountain and it turns into like Darth Vader's castle. Like it's nothing crazy like that's happened. But yeah, I mean, and sometimes, again, it's just really just kind of the finessing as the process goes. Like, one is written as Kalon is this very interesting techie world. And then we get to our location, we're like, there's a lot of glass. So we'll like see what we can move with that. So it's just kind of taking it step by step. And then we're kind of the bow on top and ship it over to you guys and see how it works.
I know, especially in this episode, the big ship battle is the thing that everyone looks at and goes, wow, that's amazing. And it is. There's no doubt. I'm also curious, though, about the things that people don't think about being visual effects. Like, I'm sure there are little flourishes and things done here and there that we wouldn't even notice just because they're so well done. Is there anything in particular in this episode that we wouldn't think of as a visual effect?
I think the most impressive part about this battle is that you can follow every single step and you feel like you are like you're following through play by play and like what's happening. And if you take that micro focus just out a little bit more, then you can kind of see like the sub stories of like, oh, and then this guy's getting blown up over here and there's this chase over here. And then if you take it even wider, not many people realize that there's all these like little vignettes in the background of like these little miniature battles, and they have like their own story, and we make sure that we track every level of that all the way through to like where the Orville is at. So if you're on the side of the moon headed towards the Earth, you can't see as many of those because we started this battle further away, and that's where like the main part of it is. But you can see like little pew pews in the background, and then as we get closer to Earth, like that kind of dies back. And so yeah, there's a lot of little finite details in the battle itself that I think really serve as just again another piece of the puzzle that kind of just brings it all together and makes even just like the miniature attention to detail like even just so like crazy.
I love how pew pews seems to be a common phrase in the office.
Oh yeah, me and the boyfriend, we since he just finished up Star Wars, we're the pew pew family.
Nice.
Should have been our Christmas card. It's like love the pew pews.
It's always next year. You could do it next year.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
I'm always curious from a viewer perspective how long that battle sequence took to put together from start to finish.
Yeah. Well, the problem with visual effects is you always have, you can have too much time and you can have not enough time. There's never like just enough time. I mean, we could have mastered this in another like 3 months, 6 months. Like it could have been even crazier and wilder. But from kind of start to finish, I turned it over. So, I mean, not including like all the pre-visualization that Brandon and his team did together. But once I handed it to our vendors to when it aired was about 7.5 weeks, which is mind-blowing. I mean, there was a lot of like, I don't know if we're gonna make it, like, guys, and they're like, no, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, okay, if you say so. And they're like, trust us. And I'm like, I do. I just don't know. Like, these are massive renders. Like, putting a fireball in anything, let alone space, let alone billions of them, is like so nuts. And then talking with the sound guys, and they're like, there's literally millions of blasts here. Like, can we get anything? And I'm like, I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Like, so yeah, it was about 7.5, 8 weeks if we literally like touched down to the minute that it aired. But yeah, it was nuts. And honestly, like, my hat's off to every person that worked on it ever, from the DI that was just like, here we go, it's in space, like, we'll see what happens, to the orchestra that made an amazing score off of it.
Such a good score.
And yeah, and the mixing team, like, they did amazing. And, editorial was there with us the entire way, just like, what can we do? And I'm like, just stand back, guys. Like, we're coming in hot. We have 5 other episodes to do. Like, which was like crazy, because we weren't just like, oh, this is it. Like, that was the middle of the season. And we were like, oh crap, we still have the rest of the season to do. So like, was like, let's have a little bit of champagne and then we got to get back to work.
Yeah, when we talked about it, we were just like, oh, they decided to just drop a like huge movie in the middle of the second season.
Oh, our bad, sorry. Just make sure you guys are still out there watching.
Oh yeah. I had read too that the scene started off being maybe like 2 minutes planning wise, and then it got stretched out to the length that it is now. How did that happen?
Well, masterfully, Brandon has an amazing eye for like just placement and like just overall like placement of camera, placement of ship action. Like, it's amazing. So we kind of just went with like, go big, and hopefully, Seth will just pare it down to his favorite shots. And then it was kind of like, oh, I love all of it. And we're like, oh, okay. And he was like, we can just put it all in there, right? And we were like, yeah, I mean, you're the guy, so yeah, sure, we can do that. And he's like, all right, cool. And we're like, all right, now we have, a 10-minute battle.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, it was also like, why not? Also, because we have never done anything like that before. And I think part of the challenge that was exciting for us was to be a broadcast show doing these crazy things that only really streaming or features were doing.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like, yeah, you know what? We're ready. Like,
yeah,
move out of the way, dragons. We're here. Like, so yeah, it was kind of exciting, kind of nervous, kind of lack of sleep, lots of Red Bull.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a ton of fun. I mean, at the end of the day, the most rewarding part was sitting here with the 12 visual effects people and the 3 previous guys and Tom and Hillary and Bart and all those guys, and just like watching the episode on our like crappy TV that we have here, and then just like watching Twitter be like, holy crap, we're like, oh my god, guys, they like us.
That's amazing. And then of course the Emmy nomination to follow.
Oh, I literally fell on the ground, was hyperventilating. It was so nuts.
But well deserved.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much. Yeah, we got on the short list, which was like basically like the top 15. Somebody's got to fact check. I'm pretty sure it's the top 15. And so then I was like, oh my god, we're on the like out of hundreds of submissions, we're like on the top 15. Like, that's nuts. And then when they announced it, I was watching the live feed and it only did like the actors, and I was like, oh, what the crap? Like, where's our stuff? And then my friend calling me and she's like, oh my god, you made it. And I was like, where is this information? And so I like pulled up and I was like, oh my god, that's my freaking name. Like, oh, that's so good. And, like, hyperventilating, crying, and like my parents, I'm calling them, and it was nuts.
That's so
there was
cool.
no work that got done that day. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a ton of fun, and just going, like, it was so much fun to just be around all of these people that had made it down to the top 5. And sharing it with Star Trek and Game of Thrones and Man in the High Castle and all. Like, it was just so exciting to be within like your little family of visual effects people, being like, hey guys, like, we're making some pretty cool stuff out there.
Yeah, and like you said, it was a lot of other streaming shows.
Yeah, I mean, we were the only broadcast show, so it was awesome. Like, it was so cool to be a part of that. And I mean, now we're streaming, but yeah, it's fine.
It's almost like the streaming is now the reward.
Yeah.
To talk about some kind of more specific things within the 2-parters, there are other things that are within the episode outside of the space battle, because there's so much cool stuff in the episode in general.
I know, everybody's like, oh, the space battle, and I'm like, guys, we like ejected a freaking shuttle at Quantum and nobody died. Like, this is nuts. Nobody's talking about that.
But like even something as small as like the opening scene where we see them playing Boladon discs.
Yeah.
Like, when you're creating that visual, I imagine they're looking at nothing during that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool prop that Brian Rogers made. And honestly, we were like, what is Candy Crush in space? And we kind of just made that into its thing. And like we made up our own like little side of rules, and we told them like, well, if you do this, this happens, and then you win. Uh, and so, I mean, obviously, like it was written in a certain way. It wasn't just like, oh, we'll see what happens. Like obviously, Isaac wins everything because he's a robot. But yeah, it was super cool to kind of make up something that they interact with, and then kind of having the reaction afterwards when they saw it was like, oh, that's what we were doing. That's so cool. We're like, hey.
How difficult is it to sync up their like movements and mannerism with the actions of the game?
Well, actually, it's not that bad because we actually are backing into something. It would be a lot harder if they were trying to guess what we were going to do,
Sure.
and then like have that weird, pull and tug of like, well, maybe it's not right. So it's not, I would actually prefer to have, backing into an action or like tracking back into something that's going to be the end goal, because at least we know what it's going to look like at the end of the day, not depicted by what we need to do. So, which is a lot of visual effects is, this is what you need. This is what we did. Now make the two into one.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that you spend time on set when they're filming to hopefully help make the process smoother. Was this one of the situations where you saw them play the game on set?
I was not specifically there for that because we were a little hot in the first few episodes. But yeah, I mean, all between me and Brandon and now Eric, it just kind of depends on like if Brandon needs to review assets and ships and models and all that kind of stuff, he'll be doing that, and I'll help take on, not a huge space battle, but if they're doing something and they need just an eyeball out, because again, we are shooting everything in space, then I'll go over there and I'll hang out with them. Or sometimes we'll do kind of just like split units, so there'll be one here on the lot and there'll be one in another location somewhere else, and I'll help manage like the onset team, or I'll help schedule sccans, or whoever else one knows. But I do get to go out there a couple times, and it's always fun because there's like new faces and people that you only get to see during production. And then when they're gone, you're like, oh, I guess it's just us now. And they have really good snacks, so that's always an excuse to get out of the office.
That's always a good reason to go.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool. Like, when I went to college, it was always like, oh my gosh, like we're in Hollywood, we're in LA, and like, oh, how do they even do it? And it's like everybody's just so friendly, and like, I don't know, it's kind of funny. Like you kind of just want to have like a reality show of people just kind of like hanging out, waiting for stuff to happen. And then when it happens, it's like this crazy like robot of like, all right, lights are going, camera's going, all right, everybody, special effects is blowing up stuff, okay, turn. But it's like all silent, so there's no like grandiose music, but it's like it happens so like robotically, where like the machine is making movies, and you're just like, wow, this is so cool. Because 2 minutes ago we were all making coffee talking about like something super dumb that we found on the internet, and now we're like making a movie. Like, this is so nuts.
I would totally watch that behind the scenes to see all the things. That would be amazing.
Yeah. And some like, I mean, we're all family. Like, we pick on each other a little bit, so it's always funny to like, oh, it's your birthday. Oh, we all forgot. And then like, surprise, Kassar, there's a huge birthday cake for you. Like, so it's a lot of fun. I mean, that really is it. Like, we're a really big family in space, and I don't know, it's kind of cool. Sometimes I forget that we're making a TV show.
That's kind of the best job to have, though, right?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't do anything else.
Another thing in the show that I always wonder about too is, because we see the video screens, like when they do a video call, whatever, Ed calls the Admiral, he calls Halsey in this one. Yeah. And I always wonder like what the process is for the filming of that. Do they have like Victor Garber record a video first, and then that plays off screen while Ed interacts with it as he's hearing it? Because he's clearly not looking at it right there.
What are you talking about? Of course he's on the screen.
More immersion breaking.
The fourth wall.
Of course he's there. We're totally calling him in from Space Central. No, well, it kind of just depends. Like, it just depends on what's available. So, if obviously Ted Danson was working on The Good Place. So if we can get all of his stuff in one day, then we'll just have him go through, and it's great because then we can have them act against it. But otherwise, it's a very lucky AD that gets to read the lines and then really helps set the pace and make sure that it's gonna back in well again. But yeah, I mean, it's really what's available, what we have, what we don't have, how we make it work, and then just there you go.
Yeah.
And sometimes he calls in, hey guys, what's going on? Oh, am I on the screen today? All right, have a good day.
You have Yaffet on the show, which is obviously a big visual effect as well.
Yes.
How's it working on something a little more freeform like Yaffet compared to something that's a lot more mechanical that has like moving parts and things?
Well, in season 1, they really established what Yaffet is. So he is just this gelatinous guy, but he has very specific Yaffet mannerisms. He has very specific Yaffet like mouth movement, and he has his own like little character. So it's not really just, he's not like Flubber where he kind of just like does whatever he does whenever we feel like it.
Yeah.
He's very like, that is his thing, is all of his movements are Yaffet inspired. So I mean, kind of the same thing. We'll either have Norm's voice or we'll have a really cool PA or AD read it out for us, and then we kind of just back into it. But we have a little like beanbag guy that we put in for camera marking so that nobody's like making Yaffet tiny when he needs to fill the screen.
Okay.
And then so we have like a little beanbag that hangs out there, and it's kind of funny just to have those kind of pictures of the entire cast and this like beanbag just like hanging out. Again, part of the behind the scenes reality show of just everybody talking to a beanbag. And then like when he goes into Isaac, we use a lot of different tools. So we'll use like a laser pointer so that everybody at the same time is following Yaffet into Isaac. And then we'll use some special effects rigs to help, interact with the body, because again, real is real. And I mean, there's a lot of brain power that goes behind even just shooting that little tiny sequence. It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I didn't even think to consider their eye line for like, we can't see this non-existent gelatinous blob moving around right now.
Yeah, we have a lot of really good, like when the shuttle takes off, we have a lot of really good footage of Brandon with a pole just like running across the shuttle bay. And I'm just like, Brandon, what are you doing, man? He's like, they need an eye line tool. And I was like, if you are the shuttle, be one with the shuttle, my friend.
I've always wondered, because I've seen in movie making, they have the tennis ball that moves across the screen. I was wondering, with a character like Yaffet, it's interesting to hear that he's a beanbag and a laser pointer. Do you ever get attached to any of these computer generated characters?
I mean, I love Yaffet. He's my favorite. Just like him and Gordon are my favorite, just like comedic breaks. Because sometimes it's just like, oh my God, this is so deep and dark. And you're like, oh my God. And then you're like, there's a fart joke. Like, thank God. And I don't know, it's just, I really like him. But I think I also have a soft spot because like, I feel like the visual effects is a character in the show. So we're like, oh, we did such a good job, guys, acting. Like, my little guy made it. And the guys that do Yaffet over at Tippett, like, they're like such cheerleaders for him too. They're like, how many more times can we put him in a shot? Come on, like, give us more. But yeah, I like him. We liked the head guns last season from Isaac and the Kalon. That was such a trip too. Like, that nobody saw that coming either. And then in the last episode when they detach, we were just like, and they detach. All right, cool. It made me feel like this recent Star Wars where the stormtroopers have jetpacks and they fly, and I was like, that was us when they were like, the heads come off. I feel you guys. I can just imagine like the people over at ILM just being like, damn it, like they can't just not fly. Like, guys, we're on space, like we're on all these crazy planets, we're blowing things up, like we don't need flying freaking stormtroopers.
But they have toys to sell.
Yeah,
that's true. I don't know if the kids would buy detachable Isaac heads that have guns. I don't think that's.
There might be some adults that would, like me. So
probably. Maybe.
Honestly,
maybe we'll see what happens.
Well, one of my favorite scenes in the episode is the Orville's arrival on Kalon.
Yeah.
Because you get to see a lot of things within that scene that you don't normally see in the show as a whole. Like, for one, just seeing the Orville in daylight is such a different experience. Like, seeing the sun rays hitting people on the side of the face and everything. As the Orville's coming in, you see the shadows of the buildings being cast, and it's gorgeous. I love the lighting in that scene. How much planning and consideration goes into every little touch, because I was looking like meticulously, and it's just so beautiful.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, again, it's like the Yaffet laser pointer, like it's so much, there's just so much going on behind the scenes. of, somebody's like rolling stuff across the light, this light's like moving up and down, and the actors are like, okay, like we gotta act scary, like even though it's not like dark and creepy, it's like fully lit and robotic, so you're not like, oh, what's gonna happen? But this is supposedly potentially one of the most dangerous non-biological inhabitants in the entire known galaxy. Like, we don't know what's gonna happen. They could just like Thanos snap in the middle of nowhere, and well, that's the end of it. Like, see you guys later. So I was really cool to have like a creepy scene in full daylight so that you can see everything. Because I think some of the more scarier like anticipation, like hold your breath moments are when you can see everything and you have no idea what else could possibly happen. I mean, I guess it's the same if it's totally dark, you don't know what's happening. But I just think it was so cool. And to land on a planet that we've never even like remotely thought about landing on is like so crazy. And it's just down the street in LA. We made it into a totally different. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of planning, and yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. The amount of logistics and meetings and manpower, brain power, artistic power behind, again, just like having everybody be on the same bridge we've all been on, but like now it's during the day. And the same thing we busted out of the water in the finale. Like that was the same thing as we had to like, now we're in daylight again.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. Like you said, like we always see it with dark and stars and maybe a planet here and there. But yeah, it was something cool. And yeah, it was really awesome to, have these experiences on the show as well as have them within the show story as well.
I imagine you get to have a little fun as you're creating these. Are there any Easter eggs that you've kind of like tucked in that maybe you haven't revealed to people?
The only Easter egg that I myself put in there was when, pretty sure her name is Laura, her phone, when they turn it on for the first time, the time is 1:43, and I was like, 1:43, I love you guys.
That's awesome.
So it's like a very tiny like split second of like, because I was like, hey Seth, do you like care what time? And he was like, yeah, this looks good. And I was like, perfect.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It was my little like snippet of a love letter to all of my Orville family and fans.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
And in the appropriate episode too, really.
And they like fall in love, and I was like, oh, nobody knows yet, but I know.
That's so good.
So yeah, no, that's the only one that like was on purpose. I'm sure Brandon put some stuff in there.
Yeah. No, everyone likes to put their little stamps and signatures on everything, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon is in that episode too.
That's right. He's at the party scene.
Yeah, okay. I was like, hopefully everyone else has seen that. Like he's gonna hate me if I'm like, and here's his acting reel. Yeah, no, he's in there too. So those are our little hey guys, what's up?
Is there anything about the two-parter of Identity that you'd like to say that's like maybe not specifically visual effects related? Like, do you have thoughts about the episode as a whole in general?
I feel like I was so engulfed into
it's hard to separate from it, right?
I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it was cool to kind of see a different version of Isaac, because he is like the only robot that we have on the ship. So to see kind of where his like lineage and his history comes from, and then also know that he has a robotic ability to be like, wait, good versus bad, like, well, hold on a second. I thought that was really cool, and like not too far from the near future of robots knowing like what's good versus bad, and hopefully they choose right for our own sake. So yeah, it was kind of cool. Like the underlying story there is really cool, that like not only humans have these like, yes or no or gray area brains, like there's other organisms that you kind of have like the same thought pattern, and whether it's emotional or not, if it's just ones and zeros, or if it's love or hate, it's all kind of in the same language.
That is kind of the interesting debate, isn't it? Like, yeah, do they have emotions? It's like, if they do, is it their version? Like, who's to say where our emotions come from?
Exactly. Like who is to depict like what is good or what is bad depending on what you know. So like, as far as we know, the Kalon, think that everything's bad because they had a bad experience. Like,
Yeah.
and then we are like, well, the Kalon are bad because they don't like us because we don't like them. Like, it's I don't know. I feel like that's the general like Fi languages. There is good and there is bad and there is kind of an in between.
Yeah.
But like, which side, which shoe are you putting on?
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, because the Orville does ask a lot of philosophical questions. This is totally unrelated. Are you a fan of sci-fi in general?
I came on because I love comedy.
Yeah.
My favorite sci-fi is Spaceballs. So
That's nice. Yes.
yeah, everybody is like, oh, you guys are the new Star Trek, and I'm like, or we're just a different sci-fi show. Like we feel like Star Trek does their thing, and we're doing our thing, and we're all in this galaxy together, and there's tons of room for everybody. Don't worry. Star Wars is over there making the land in Disneyland. Like we're all good. But yeah, I'm not a hardcore, like I can't begin to tell you anything about anything.
Yeah, that's okay.
Which I feel like maybe they needed. They were like, this chick, she's a noob. Perfect.
No. Because I know I looked at your body of work and you've worked on American Horror Story, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and one of my personal favorites, Barry.
Yes.
What is it like working in so many different genres of visual effects?
I love it because I have such a diverse toolbox that I can bring with me. When I interviewed for this job, I was working on American Horror Story, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Barry, Super Troopers 2. Like I was working on all of those at the same time. And it was just kind of this like, oh, well, you are kind of well versed in all types of different televisions. So you don't just do this one and we're going to hope that you can just deliver this one type of show. Like, how fast like American Horror Story is like literally just like a week or two to turn over things. But then on the other side, like a feature takes, 6 months to do. So I like it. And it also gives me experience on different themed shows, different types of shows, different tempos, different speeds. And then I just get to meet all kinds of cool people. Like, I think that's my favorite part. When I first started, I really wanted to be like on Mike and Molly or like 2.5 Men. Like I really liked multi-camera sitcom. And as I like kind of got into things, I realized that, oh no, I just like working. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. I just like working. I'm not a big fan of, like gore and clowns and like horror. So it was very interesting to then be attached to American Horror Story for so long. And, but we did it and it looks super cool. And they were nominated for an Emmy when I was on that too. So that was cool, which was really awesome because the same team that is over at Fuse is led by Tommy Tran. And when I was just a little editor on American Horror Story, we went to the Emmys together and he won and came all the way full circle. And he got to go with us to the Emmys for Orville.
That's nice.
And
awesome.
It was tons of fun. And we had a really good moment. If we would have won full circle, everybody lives happily ever after. But now we just have to try again.
As we start to wrap things up, because we don't want to take too much of your time, is there anything that we can plug for you, social medias or anything in general, really, whatever you'd like?
I mean, I'm really just so excited to be a part of the Twitter world because you guys are so much fun out there and you guys are such the little breath of fresh air of hope that we need sometimes. Sometimes we're just like, oh man, like today is not a good day. And then we're like, oh, Pedro made little fan arts of us. We're so cool. Or we'll just see that Tony is like, hey guys, love you. We're like, we love you too. So we're just so excited to be a part of it. That's really all that I have available for that you guys would be interested in.
I love the fact too that you can name specific people and I know exactly who you're talking about.
Me too.
Because it is that tight knit of a community on social media. It's crazy, but I love it.
And it doesn't matter if I'm posting a funny dog meme or hey guys, secret Orville picture of me and the guys on blue screen. What's up? Everybody just is like, Brooke is so cool. And I was like, no, I'm not, guys. I'm just a girl in an office doing some stuff. But yeah, and Bruce has a little Instagram if everybody gets excited about that. I think he's junior_Bruce.Wayne. And he has a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, me too.
I've been told that he's people's favorite person to follow on Instagram just because he takes a lot of snelfies where it's just his nose and all of his fur. Yeah, Bruce does that by himself. Like, he's got to get off the internet, guys. It's crazy.
He's out of control. He's addicted to all these likes.
He's addicted. Yeah, I don't know. He's just checking out all those dog butts, and I gotta put parental filters on that. Like, Bruce, when he's like, no, don't look at it.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. This has been absolutely wonderful. The insight is fantastic. So I'm sure we'll come back and ask you to come back on again, because I'm sure there's going to be some excitement coming out of season 3 as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're just really trying to keep it pretty low key this season. Like, and we're just gonna really explore every single room of the ship, just so you guys know what's happening.
I'm okay with that, by the way.
We're just gonna close all the windows and just really focus on us. No, it's gonna be great. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's I know everybody's very anxious, but it's gonna be totally awesome. And as you can hear and see from my very covered whiteboard.
Well, we certainly look forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a ton of fun. Thank you guys for reaching out. This is so much fun. Again, I like to talk to people, as Delaney is listening here, that aren't in my office or Bruce.
Human contact.
Yes.
Oh my God, people.
Quantum Drive is a production of The Geek Generation. If you like this show, be sure to check out our other podcasts on the Geek Generation Network at thegeekgeneration.com.
If you'd like to support the show and get access to exclusive bonus podcasts along with other perks, you can visit our Patreon campaign at thegeekgeneration.com/support.
You can follow Quantum Drive on Twitter at Quantum Drive Pod and me at TheRobLogan.
You can follow me on Twitter at PlayKatiePlay and on Twitch at Katie Peters Plays, and Katie is spelled Katie.
Please rate the show and write a review on Apple Podcasts. If you do, we may read your review on an upcoming episode.
Finally, questions and comments can be sent to quantumdrive@thegeekgeneration.com.
We're out of here for now, but we'll see you soon
in the future.